kind of work.
And the other one, she was in London, I think.
Call to order the regular common council meeting, Monday, June 16th, 7 p.m. Roll call.
Webb?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Confirmation of appropriate meeting notice.
Meeting was noticed on Friday, June 13th. Agenda is posted at BMO Harris Bank, the post office, library, and city hall.
Council acceptance of the agenda.
I'll make that a motion. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public hearing. Council will hold a public hearing to hear comments regarding an application to the USDA Rural Development Agency for financial assistance and possible grant assistance for upgrades to existing wastewater treatment facility, and hear comments regarding the environmental assessment study prepared for the possible wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Is this where we turn it over to Mr. Sauer?
Well, hello everyone. I've got a series of slides to go through just to explain what we've done over the last few months with this application for rural development. It's USDA Rural Development, and they have funding for various types of infrastructure type projects. It could be buildings, it could be housing, it could be water treatment, it could be for water mains, sanitary sewer lines, but we put an application together for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and we're going to go through that. And I had Phil Korth from Fulf Infrastructure come down too. He's going to talk a little bit more about the proposed design elements for the upgrade. But what we've done, and I brought over, I think we've all been going through this. We had 3 documents that we put together over the last couple of years. We did a feasibility study for land application of wastewater. We were thinking of going to a land application system instead of going to the Rock River, and we did that in November of 2012. That's part of the facility plan. The facility plan was a draft, was completed in February of this year, and that was submitted to Rural Development for their review, and they've reviewed it. We've got comments back, and as part of that we had to do some additional environmental work, which is all part of Rural Development, and that's an environmental assessment of the lands, wetlands, all of that, and that's been completed also, and that was submitted in April. So, just a little bit of history. The original wastewater plant was, for the most part, built in 1982, and it's still under operation. Ever since I've been starting to do engineering work, we've done a lot of sanitary sewer replacements, as you all know, and that was all with the intention of removing II from the system, infiltration and inflow, which is the clear water that comes into the collection system. And we have a lot of projects that we've completed. In addition, we did an SSES report for the DNR in 2009, which was a sanitary sewer excessive flows report, where we were still getting some excessive flows during high rain events, and we identified a couple creek crossings, and now we've done those. There was a crossing that we just slip-lined in March of this year, February and March of this year, again to remove this clear water that's coming into the treatment plant so we can downsize the treatment plant. We did the land application study in 2012. Last year we completed the digester upgrade at the wastewater plant. And all of the digester upgrade is part of the big plan that we were going to continue to use aerobic digestion at the plant. Again, just to review, these are the three reports that I just showed you and what we've got completed. And if we're going to go ahead with this application, then we would submit this facility plan with the supplemental information to the DNR. So they have to approve it yet also. What's the deficiencies at the wastewater plant? The existing, 32 years old for most of the process equipment. There's a grit removal system. It's pretty much wore out and it's going to be undersized. The RBC units have limited capacity for treating BOD. They're still running and we're still meeting limits. That's not an issue. Final clarifiers are undersized. They're 30-foot diameter clarifiers, and the new clarifiers that we're going to put in are 50-foot in diameter, and that's along with projected flows out that are out 20-plus years. Chlorine disinfection has limited capacity, and for the most part, we've been replacing chlorine with UV disinfection. It's a safety issue with having to deal with chlorine and adding chlorine. And then the sludge drying beds are going to continue to be used in the new plant also, but we're going to, the code requires now that they're lined and they collect all the infiltrate. Right now it's not lined, so it doesn't meet the current code requirements. And again, these were built in 1982, 30-some years ago. So the proposed upgrades would be a new grit removal system, replace the RBCs with a biological phosphorus activated sludge system, and that's a lot of words, but what that will be is we're going to have new phosphorus limits, and currently we use chemicals to treat for phosphorus, and we spend a lot of money every year for chemicals. And with this type of treatment system, we're projecting that you probably won't have to use very many, if any, chemicals at all. It'll be biologically removed with the system. So there's a huge savings in annual cost, because that annual cost, which is about $75,000 a year, goes away. You know, that cost alone. The new final clarifiers, there'll be two 50-foot diameter clarifiers, a UV disinfection system. We're going to add another aerobic sludge digester, just like the one we did last year. Same process, and we're going to continue to use the blowers and all the upgrade that we did last year. It's part of the big picture, the long-term use. And then we're going to upgrade the sludge drying beds, which is putting in a liner and some piping to collect all the leaching. This is the diagram of the chosen alternative, and it kind of puts together a little perspective of where everything is. And the structures that are in the cross-hatched area, those are the structures that are going to be taken out. And you've got the two clarifiers, you get the primary clarifiers, and you got the grit removal system. Now up on the upper right, there's the water comes into the existing lift station, and that's a lift station that we built in '99, in the year 2000. That's going to be used, and it has the right capacity to be used for the next 20-year design. And from that point, we're going to have the new structures that are outlined here, and I'm going to have Phil just talk about those a little bit and explain those.
Thanks, Dave. After the lift station's pumping up, we flow everything by gravity to the rest of the plant there. First thing we go to is a new grid chamber, and it's attached to a new building. It's in the middle right there. That building will house electrical panels, the blowers for the new aeration system, and pretty much all the electrical for the new parts of the plant. There the water flows to what we see here is a anaerobic selector. As Dave mentioned, we're looking at taking this into a biological phosphorus removal system. To do that, we have several unaerated tanks. This was modeled in the report that shows it looks like it's going to work real well, and we're pretty confident that we, like I said, nearly reduce or eliminate the amount of chemical you're adding here. Plus, it also reduces the amount of sludge you end up having to do because you don't have all the chemical sludge associated with that. So it saves in two ways. It's also an energy saver as we take ammonia to make it into nitrogen, nitrate. We'll be taking some of that oxygen back and actually recovering that in the unaerated cells. There goes into a conventional activated sludge process. Just a note, you've had very good success with your rotating biological contactors for 32 years. That technology is still being used. However, it's, I don't know if anybody's putting new ones in anymore. It's one thing just keeping old ones up. Activated sludge has a lot more flexibility in it too. You can do more things to adjust things and make it work. It also allows you to do this biological phosphorus and potentially biological nitrogen removal that you can't do in RBC. So, yes, sir.
Which circle are you at? That one on the left now? I can't read the writing there.
And the big square in
Square
the
mat.
center.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, that's going to be the activated sludge.
Okay, gotcha.
They're aerated basins about 15, 16 feet deep, and that's where the bulk of the biological treatment side is done. So again, bringing the plant up to more modern technology and a lot more flexibility in operation, and should serve you well for the foreseeable future. Dave said the final clarifiers, those two circles in the lower part, those are much larger than the existing ones, and those will also have size for the right future. And then the lower left, we see the additional aerobic digester. The two of the existing ones in the lower left were rehabbed and will be still in use, and the new one will be for future capacity. So there's, as we go through this, there's room in the site for other future expansion if we need to. We'll lay this out in more detail as we get into design, but this should serve you well and give you lots of capacity to treat your waste plus attract industries or development if that comes to town. So, yes.
Where that last circle is up there, is that where the current 4 RBC units are? They're coming out then? Dave, is it?
They're in this, they're here, Matt.
It's in that rectangular building between the two circles on top that are hashed and the two.
Okay. Will that building stay? Is that coming out?
Yeah, we're going to reuse that for
Whatever.
storage.
Okay, cool.
It's a garage really because all of those basins are just going to be filled with concrete.
Okay.
And we'll have
It has a little challenge of low headroom, so you can put tall ceiling.
Yeah, right. Okay.
No sense tearing it down if you can.
It's a nice building, it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And we have the blowers for the digester in the one end of that building, and all the pumping equipment is in the basement of that building. The digester.
Right.
So we're reusing all of that space also, so it's not a problem.
Things you don't see on here, again, Dave said we're redoing your sludge drying beds, putting in liners so we capture the liquid that comes out rather than letting it soak in the ground. And probably a big thing is upgrading the electrical, going to a SCADA system, get a modern computerized system that'll give you a lot more information and make things easier to operate.
The other thing we should point out is that all that land that was where the new structures are, we purchased that from, I think it was Churchill, years ago. That was 10, 15 years ago. With the plan, the idea was that we were going to expand the site into that area. So now we're just planning to use it. Just some future design and the permit limitations. The city has issued a new permit in October of last year, and in that permit there's a compliance schedule for meeting these new phosphorus limits and new ammonia limits, and they come into effect in 9 years. So it's not like we have to do it, we have to meet new limits tomorrow. It is a 9-year compliance schedule. The proposed upgrade that we're proposing is being more driven by capacity issues than meeting the new limits. But the new limits with this plant, you'll be able to meet those new limits without a problem. And that's a really big deal, because there's a lot of communities that are struggling to meet these new phosphorus limits. And you probably heard now and then that communities are really knowing full well that they may have to ask for variances just because of those issues. The design is for 20 years. I think the flow rates, the design flow rates are now, and the design loading rates are about almost 1.5 times what the existing loading rates, design loading rates for the plant are. So it's like 1.4 to 1.5 greater. So we're getting, our design flow rates now are 700,000, and it's designed for just under $1 million. So that's the amount of expanded capacity. So, and we projected a growth of about 2% residential population a year in that projection. So that's where those numbers come from. And we also projected growth in the business part.
Yeah. That's how I was going to ask a question, Dave, back in the mid-90s when all the cities were growing big time, annexed about 400 acres in on their full, the current subdivisions that are filling up about 50% capacity, that would handle the current subdivisions that are on the books and plus maybe more for the capacity deal. And then for the business park, for expansion up there, did you take into consideration, not that it's a good thing, but if there was any sort of a business prospect that used more heavier type outflow, did you look into that type of scenario or not?
We just took what we typically use for business parks,
okay,
and projected out as a flow and loading rate in
like the heavy sludge that some
industry.
Okay.
That would make a little bit of a difference. But again, you would set up your user charge system that if somebody's using up more capacity than what was normally used, then they would be assessed at cost. So they would be essentially buying in some of the capacity. So the residential part doesn't have to subsidize that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's generally, you got a wind industry in town, again, you don't want to have people paying for, the residents paying for capacity that's industrial. So a lot of times, Dave's right on here, we'll design for some known growth and reasonable growth. You get somebody that's got to ask for a lot of capacity, there's two options. You can ask them to pre-treat.
Okay, right. Oh, gotcha.
Waste reduction. Or if you're going to do the treatment at the treatment plant, have them pay for that extra capacity you're putting in. So it doesn't come back to all the residential.
Paying for the extra capacity, does that mean adding on to the treatment plant or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I gotcha.
They had a high strength waste, we put in, maybe you didn't need to add a clarifier, maybe add to expand the biological portion of it.
Gotcha.
And then we say, okay, for this $1 million, whatever, industry, you're owe us for that, and we'll treat it for you. There's a couple ways to handle it.
Okay, thanks.
But not to have the residents pay for all of that.
Sanitary sewer rates, we went through the current rates, which is there's a fixed rate and then there's a variable rate based on how much water one uses. And on average, the rates are about $40.80 per month. With the new rate, the proposed new rate with grant assistance, and this package that we're putting together for rural development is a loan and grant package. And they projected out that we're eligible for some grant assistance, and that's why we're pursuing it. And if we did get that, then there's probably going to be some increase, but it's going to be dependent on how much grant money that we get. And we don't know that yet. And that's why this hearing and all the input will include that in this application and submit it. And then they should have a decision by August 1st, that I've heard, is that they will come back and say, all right, here's the package that we're offering the city, so much loan and so much grant money. And then we have a decision, are we going to go ahead or how that affects our rates, and we can talk about those rates a little bit more But by that time, August 1st, we should have at least a first cut review from the DNR on the facility plan. You know, it's not like they haven't seen this before. We've been talking with them for 2 or 3 years already, so it's not a surprise. And then the last, if we get no grant assistance, then what are we going to do? And it's really one of those things where we thought it might be best just to go back and review what our options are, because you know, we can cut out some of the things at the wastewater plant that can make this a little less expensive. We can delay some things and phase it in like we've done over the last few years. But if we do everything that's in the plan, that would be the best, and that supports the grant that rural development is looking at for the city. That's kind of what I have, and we can go into a lot more detail with any questions if you'd like.
I remember back 10, 15 years ago when we were doing all that upgrades of the plant, and this is super great if it passed, Dave, you know. And the utility commission would, Chairperson Capellan and council members and the citizens on that wastewater treatment utility commission did a wonderful job throughout the years. Ron, I was never on it, but it's quite the operation down there, isn't it, Candies, you know, and it's just, if this goes through, it'll be a really nice, you know, you guys did a lot of good work.
Is there any possible rebate money available for upgrading the electrical system?
There's always energy, you know, focus on energy has money for, you know, if you put in high efficiency motors, and we always go for anything that's available, and those programs change almost every year, but as far as I know, they still have money for focus on energy, on high efficiency motors and
Things like, you know, variable frequency drives and
Right.
motors, that kind of stuff, yes, there's money available for that.
that's not even factored in. That would be on top of this. But they look for projects.
You know, those aren't grants, those are kind of just incentives to get to do that, but yeah, we certainly want to take advantage of anything we can with it.
I noticed that, this isn't in it, but over in Evansville, they put that windmill type thing for electricity. Did anybody ever look at that option? Was it too crazy, or, you know, for...
Well, the wind turbine that was built there, we were involved in that, and a lot of the reason for that was that there was a grant program that was in place, and that is not in place anymore. We sold back energy to the electric utility, WPPI, for the next 13 years, and they bought the energy back at 15 cents a kilowatt hour for everything that's generated. So by the time it was a $500,000 wind turbine,
Right.
by the time they got their skin in the game, left was probably 100,000 out of that 500,000. It was a perfect storm, you know, but it's not available.
Yeah.
Schedule-wise, if this all goes forward, the one thing that we're looking at is we would start design this fall, do the project next spring, start construction middle of next year, and it's probably going to take a year and a half. So by the time it all gets done, it's probably fall of 2016 or early 2017. So this is 14 already. So next year is 15. Yeah, so it'd be half of 15 and all of 16. So early 2017 would be.
That's the main, if the grant goes through, the big kahuna, the big project, okay.
It's a process to go through rural development. It's, quite frankly, it's a grind, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
They got that package. We've been through it before. That's why I don't have it here. It's going on, yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone in the audience have anything to speak on this?
How much is it possible if you were to do the whole thing?
So $11 million. program is, it's up to, I think, 45% as max, and they've told us that we're in the range of 30% grant money. But they have to go, it has to be sent into the national office because of the size of the project. So ultimately, it will be decided at the national office. The state office is reviewed, and they forwarded all the information that we've got to them.
How long of a timetable is it before, once you get everything turned in, that you'd know where we stand on it, if we receive the grant or not?
They're saying like February, or I should say August, around August 1st, just August 1st, another.
Well, it ain't too bad.
So if you got a match, it's 30 would be like, what, 3.3 million, where the other is 7.7 million.
They have a loan program, so that money would be all loan money, and their terms and conditions of that loan are, it's a long-term loan. It's all the details of that will be probably in what they're going to send us when they make that decision, but they typically go to a 40-year loan note for that. DNR is a 20-year loan. Every program is a little bit different on their funding for their loan packages. So that's what we've been experiencing, this 40-year loan.
So if you don't get it, like what are the downsides of the current system? Like what, please, I don't want a little more simple for me, like what is UC and what would be the benefit to the residents here in town?
If we don't get a grant package that's attractive, I think we have to go back and look at, well, how many years can we still keep doing what we're doing and generating enough revenue to help pay for that and just delaying everything. And the other thing is just to look at, maybe there's some phasing of the construction, like some of the work at the plant. This is a 20-year plan. Some of it we might not need for 10 years. So maybe we just leave that out and we build that in 10 years. So
Some of the stuff that you would be putting in for added capacity down the road, you would.
Okay.
But if you do that, would it be something that you could easily add to later?
That's what we would try to do.
Or is it easier to do it all? Usually it's easier to do it all at the beginning, correct?
Yeah. There's going to be an economy of scale on a project like this, because if you do it all at once, then it's just like you do 5 small projects or 1 big project. It's there's a lot of mobilization and a lot of startup, and it's just there's more cost to that. But those are the things that we have to look at. I don't have that answer. I don't know. That's a good question.
Would you have to go back each time for the grant, or would you only have to do the grant once for the entire project and then phase it?
I think there's a certain time frame that rural development gives you to spend that money.
Okay.
And that changes too with, I think they usually give you like 5 years to, if they award, say, August 1st, what I've seen is like 4 or 5 years to expend the money. And if you don't, then it goes back to them. So you could, that's another option. You could, just as long as you expend funding that's offered within that 5-year window. But again, it's going to be in that funding package that they're going
But
to
if the whole thing goes through, you would more than likely do the whole project.
So we'd like to do
Yeah.
that. I think it's the right thing.
Okay.
As a phased project, it would be a different funding possibility too. The entire mechanism would change in how they do their evaluation if it were phased. So, because if
May
you
not
aren't
be as
applying for
rich.
it all now,
Yeah.
then it's an unknown as to if there'd be grant funds available under future applications.
And these are all estimated costs, and actual cost, we know that once we bid it, which would be next spring at some point if this all goes forward.
I don't want to say, but if the grant don't go through, there'd be some sort of a rehab to certain mechanical or some.
We have to come back and talk to everybody and just decide what is in our best interest, because that's not, I'm pretty, if you know me, I'm the optimistic guy. I think we're gonna be
Excellent.
successful in this. So that's
where the
my
money-
personal opinion, so.
And we have rules to comply with that are going to be changing over the next few years too, and get it done right the first time and be done with it.
It's kind of one of these things where rural development either has a lot of projects or they don't have a lot of projects. And right now, I get a sense, and I was talking to Phil about it too, is they don't have a lot of projects. And if they don't have projects, then they have to turn the money back into the Fed, and then they distribute it to someone that does have projects. So
Actually, they may not get as much funding.
Because of less.
They didn't use it all this time.
Use it or lose it.
And these people that are rural development employees, their job is to give away money to good projects. So they have an incentive to make this work too, I guess.
right. We've done a lot of things that I think supports business.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Big time.
It's a good project.
You mentioned that there would be like $75,000 saved from not having to purchase these chemicals. Are there other savings that the new system will generate?
Well, power cost as time goes on are only going to increase, cents per kilowatt hour. And everything that we would put in the new plant are going to have high efficiency motors that have VFD drives, which save energy. So like when there's not much happening at early morning in the hours, the plant kind of goes on standby, so we're not using a lot of energy. And right now, we don't have those things. We have 90% efficiency motors on the RBC units, which is really good at that time, but these are going to be 95% efficient with VFDs, and they'll be ramping up and ramping down. So, when there's more flow and more load coming through the plant, it'll have to, ramp up and treat, and when it's not, it'll just go into a lower mode of energy. So I think energy is control, the I&C control. That's a big deal because you can cut on your labor. The two big costs for wastewater is labor and energy and chemical. Those are your operating costs. And if you can cut those down, then that's a big saving.
Yeah, the SCADA system allows the operators to have a lot more information to make good decisions. You may have cut operators, but you may be paying less overtime as they have things that alarm comes up and they know they can work on that tomorrow rather than the next one. They can have on their iPhones and get all the information they want. So the technologies that are there to go to the next level of operation information and make good decisions without spending much time doing it.
Well, to cut down on that, what is that fluoric acid, whatever it is, it's about $7,000 a month or something, or whatever, it's pretty high, to cut down on that. And then that's caustic even messing with that stuff, it's tough on the humans, And, with that phosphorus, I know the governor so-called put a little Band-Aid, but that's going to come back, the less phosphorus. And then the farmers and stuff like that, they're going to have to start getting their geared together too, to less when they're run off into the streams that produce the phosphorus,
Well, the net result of the studies done in the watershed here is that they actually got a good deal on their limits. And the plant we're designing here does not have any expensive tertiary filters in it that some communities have to look at. So you can meet your limits with unconventional technology. That's really a bonus. So there's really nothing that we'd have to add later on, as Steve said, to comply with the phosphorus limit. Kind of use conventional technology.
And we're going to the river, as we are now. So that's not going to change. There's a half-a-mile outfall that goes from the plant. We're going to use that just like we are for the last 30+ years.
Okay, anyone else? Any further questions? Well, thank
Thank you,
you, Dave,
gentlemen.
Phil. Don't have to officially close the public hearing either.
Good information.
Okay, personal appearances. Anyone in the audience who wish to speak anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, move on to the minutes from June 2nd.
To approve. Second.
Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Committee reports, finance, Ron.
Okay, motion to approve bills and payroll list in the amount of $204,614.35.
Second.
Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, roll call.
Webb?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Davis? Thomas?
Yes.
We have no licenses to approve, so we'll move to declare old squad number 85 as surplus.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Webb?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
And that passes.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Utility Commission.
Utility met last Monday evening, June 9th, and I'll make a motion to adopt City of Edgerton Resolution 6-14, 2013 Compliance Maintenance Resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody want to go through it page by page?
It's my name.
Randy?
It looks good. It looks very good.
No further discussion, roll call.
Davis?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
Webb?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
And that passes.
That's all for utility.
Well, since you're up on the utility, how about personnel?
Okay, personnel, we met this evening at 6:15, and I will make a motion to amend City of Edgerton Resolution 20-13A, 2014 salary resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
Webb?
And that passes.
And that's all for personnel.
Next item is consider transfer of 2013 general fund surplus to capital projects fund. We've had discussion on this in the past, haven't we?
We passed a policy, and this is in following the adoption of that policy. And the number that is calculated that will be, if you approve it, will be transferred to the capital projects fund and will be available for capital projects this fall. And this fall's budget discussion is $62,175. And the makeup of that is described in the staff report on page 7.
I'll make a motion that we transfer the 2013 general fund surplus to the capital projects fund.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
Webb?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
And that passes. Next item is to consider amendment to the Fire Protection District's agreement with the City of Edgerton.
Motion to amend the Fire Protection District's agreement with the City of Edgerton.
Second.
Any discussion?
So can you get a background on this, Chris? The amendment that passed to the fire district was to put the 4 ABCD in there, and it wasn't before? Or what can you explain more to it? Or Candy?
Basically, this is a state requirement,
Okay.
something we hadn't done in the past. We were in basically violation of the law with what we were doing. This brings us into compliance.
With the usage
With the state.
with the usage of the funds?
With the usage of the funds. Any further usage, if we want to designate them strictly for retirement, anything will be done within the district.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay. The district board will
District board
determine all the...
will handle what's specifically going to be done with the monies. This just basically says it has to go and can only be used for these 4 things.
Okay.
We will determine on the board which of those 4 things we use it for.
Okay, so so each outline, like the town of Fulton, Sumner, Porter, have to do the same thing, correct?
Yep.
Candy? Okay.
Yeah, they're all parts of the district, they all have to pass the same amendment.
Okay, to be in state compliance.
I didn't want to comment a whole lot on it because I have a conflict with it. I mean,
Right.
not with us, but with the...
With the allocation of the funds and some of that for the
correct.
pension. So the fire district board, which is memorable in time, they would determine how, if the 2% would go to the pension funds or allocate to other expenses there?
Yeah,
They will decide
and it
that.
can only be these 4 listed things.
Okay, they will, okay.
What's that?
I got
I
it.
can't answer that.
Okay, right, I know, right, we talked earlier about,
Yeah, well, Ron's on the board,
yeah.
So I can't answer for the board.
Right. And it was just the issue, it's hard to understand it totally, I was alternate on it.
It's very confusing, and I can't say anything one way or the other because I should abstain from this since
Understand.
I'm part of it too.
I know it was like, the original one said use all the funds for pension, and now they put it 3 amendments to for fire protection equipment and stuff, but the key to, I think Ron said, was that the district board can determine that, right?
I'd like to call the question, please.
I'll second.
Do we want to vote on the call to question? No? Vote on the original motion to... Vote on the motion. Approve the amendment. Roll call.
Mark Walnuts?
Yes.
Webb?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Davis?
Abstain.
Thomas?
Yes.
Chris Walnuts?
Yes.
And that passes 5 with 1 abstention. Mayor, alderpersons, and staff reports. I missed the last meeting. Congratulating you guys for the job at the cemetery, Tom. I know you were involved in some of it yourself, which hope you're okay with that part of it. But I did actually get out there prior to that weekend, and it always looks good, but it looked extremely cleaned up, and everything was trimmed up nice, and looked really good. The flags that were flying, all the weed eating, everything that everybody had been doing. We are going to put a ad hoc committee together to market the 16 Albion Street, or decide what we want to do with it. And I'd like to find some volunteers that will sign up for that. I'd like to have somebody with building, architecture, and real estate experience, not necessarily all 3, but all in one person. But if anyone has any suggestions on that, we have 1 volunteer already. He's been sitting out here all night for, I think, other reasons too, but Jim's volunteered for that. I think he was here for part of the other presentations. And so if anybody would know of anyone or can think of anybody or would want to do this, get a hold of me or Ramona.
We're looking for about 3 or 4 people or something?
Up to 5. Otherwise, it just gets out of hand. You get too many people, hands on it. And happy July 3rd out here at the racetrack park in a couple weeks, because we're not back together here until after the 4th of July. So have a safe weekend, everyone, for that one. Anyone else?
When is our next meeting? If-
July 7th.
Okay, there's a good possibility I may be out of town that week. I'm on vacation, so I may not be here.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.